Hey guys, welcome back. So, if you remember on the last video we did on the E36, you'll remember we replaced the knock sensors because before that we had a lot of burst knock. So now we're gonna go ahead and see did the new knock sensors work? Are they gonna make a difference? Are we gonna stop losing a ton of power just because, let me get the glare out of you guys' face, just because the knock sensors aren't working correctly? We know it's false knock because we've had this issue since before we blew up the 530 and replaced it with a 6-liter. All new engine, all new components, still doing it. Almost everything's been replaced from the fuel system to the motor. So we know that it is false knock. It's getting it from somewhere. It might be the PCM. It might be some drivetrain rattle. It might be because it has a mild cam. We don't know. So the first thing is replace them. If that doesn't work, we might desensitize them. So we got them replaced. Let's go ahead and take this thing for a drive and see how it does. Easy that went into boost. That was barely any throttle. Well, you can see my throttle.
Yeah.
That's just barely anything. It just fucking hauls.
It's a 6-liter for you.
That 6.0 lifestyle. 6 point below. Feel how hard it pulls with no timing. You see how far it pulled my timing down? So yeah, it's definitely not the knock sensors. They were fine.
Because this is the first time since you replaced them, right?
Yep. So I'm gonna have to tune them out. Like I can get it to go into boost a lot easier if I just downshift.
I wonder what it is though.
It pulls like a mother. Some people say that those sensors are garbage, and then it could also just be the camshaft or vibration in the driveline or something else causing it. Yeah, you've never felt it at full boost, have you? Pulls good though.
Yeah. I get above 90%. Yep. That's the only time it does it. It goes into a different learning mode. Have you posted it online to see if other people
on the video were saying that just get rid of them. They have issues.
Really?
Yeah. What I'm going to do is, it's a specific code saying something's out of range, and I'm just going to tune those codes out. It's a setting off check engine light. Which is crazy. No at all it does that.
Right.
So after we took that nice little drive, this is the data log we ended up capturing, and as you can see, as we get into the boost, actually as we get into like wide open throttle, the knock is back. So we now know this is not an issue with the knock sensors. Thought maybe because they were starting to delaminate and kind of spin in their housings, this might be the issue. I was wrong. That's why we change out these parts, and that's why we test them. But as you can see, as soon as we get into about 100% throttle, it's actually right around, I believe, 85% throttle or something. There's part of the tune that tells it to go into a more sensitive mode on the knock sensors. And that's where we start seeing the knock start kicking up, and that's where we see it start pulling timing. So we're going to go ahead, and there's a couple codes that is pulling, and I'll try to bring this up real quick. So here's our current tune, and under engine diagnostic, these are the P codes that it's actually pulling up for us, which is P0327 and P0332. and that's actually circuit low. So it's not saying it's actually seeing knock, it's saying it's seeing some type of frequency that's outside of what the normal range is. So one thing this could be is the cam. It's not a really large cam, it's actually on the mild side, but cams can cause false knock. So they are actually 100% known to do this. Now, I don't think that's the issue since I have such a mild cam in there with such a low lift. It's only a 550 lift, so I don't think that's the issue. Now, other things it could be are any type of clatter that's picking up. So if I have like say a bad pulley that's putting out a lot of noise or a lot of vibration, that could be the issue. Now, the power steering pump that's on there is a used power steering pump I picked up off eBay. It could be putting out some clatter. I don't know. It could also just be clatter that it's picking up from the torque for the transmission, the drive shaft, any number of things. So it's going to be hard to isolate that. So what we'll do instead, and since we know this is false knock, because this was actually an issue on the old motor that blew up, everything is new now. All parts have been swapped out. We know this is no longer the issue, so this is false knock. It's picking something else up, so we can desensitize the knock sensors. There's actually a map here that actually says how sensitive they need to be versus the engine RPM. So that's one of the things we were looking at was, if we go back, so right here, it is based on engine RPM and TPS on how sensitive they are. So if I actually go into it later on, it'll change at what speed, or I'm sorry, at what throttle position that knock starts being recorded at. So that's a lot of the little things that we're not going to delve into today. I'm just going to work on getting these things desensitized. That way we can take this for another drive and see how the thing performs without having to worry about the knock pulling the timing. Because one of the things I was actually looking at and kind of surprised at was how low, and they are GT35 turbos, twin turbos, so they do spool up pretty quick. And one of the things I was looking at, even with it pulling, like you see immediately at 2300, it starts pulling this, and at about 85% throttle position, it starts pulling timing like crazy. However, it starts building boost, and even with 8-10 degrees timing, which is really, really low, we're still at by 3400 making 4 pounds of boost. And I mean, that's where it's pulling it and it falls on its face. It won't make any more, but that's because all the timing is being pulled at this point. And for it to be able to start making boost at about 2300 RPM, which is pretty decent, and that's where it starts really rolling into it. And if we jump up here in the tune, or in the log, I'm sorry, we'll see that if I roll into it where I don't get the knock pulled at about 20, let's see, I think it's about 2200 RPM to 2300, we start making boost. So this makes boost at a really low RPM, which is pretty excited to see. I'd look to see where it would go if I didn't have the knock being pulled out, so that's the next thing we're going to look at. But if you see, it's going to make full boost by about 4000 RPM, and this is at mid throttle. So I mean, this is not really pushing it very hard. If we look at one of the old tunes when we had the 5.3 in there, and that's right here, this thing actually was a lot more lazy, and it wouldn't start actually making boost until about 2400, 2500 RPM. So it was a few hundred RPM off. The thing is, if you look at it, how long it took it to actually build boost, even at 72% throttle position, and it's just 1 or 2 pounds. I mean, if I was stayed in it heavier, I could make it a lot more boost, a lot quicker. Let's see. And as you see, this is on the 5.3, and we're still having the knock retard issue, so, or the burst knock. But as you can see here, this is full throttle into it. We don't make boost until about 2600, so there's a couple hundred RPM difference here. So even staying into it, you see the 5.3 really doesn't make that power until it starts getting up into the 3000s. I mean, it kind of falls on its face at that point, but like I said, we're still pulling knock. So the 5.3 could still do pretty good, just, if we weren't pulling the knock, we wouldn't be seeing that issue. But you see, it goes into the boost a lot later than the 6-liter does. So I mean, if that's what you guys are considering, 6-liter all the way. I mean, the 5.3 can still hold its own though. It's just you're going to see that boost come in a lot earlier. Next thing we're going to do, work on these knock sensors, remove these codes, and desensitize them, and get this thing back on the road and see how it does.
All right, so we went ahead and desensitized those knock sensors a little bit. Gonna take it for a quick little drive and see exactly what difference that made. So we don't know if that's gonna remove the knock or not, or if it's gonna be enough. If not, then we'll pull a little more, but we know it's false knock because it comes in no matter what. It always comes in at about 85% throttle or so. So we're gonna go ahead and see if this is enough. It's gonna be a little difficult because it's starting to mist out just a little bit, and it snowed the other day, so the ground's not the most ideal for traction. Ooh, and I spun, but guess what? We didn't have knock. I went 100% throttle and spun the tires, but we did not have a one bit of knock. So still hoping for the best. Let's see. Prior to desensitizing these knock sensors, it didn't always show knock on 100% throttle. Usually the first like 1 or 2 times I went into it, right after I started it, went from a cold start, it would just go without doing it. So it is possible it'll do it again. All right, well, I didn't look at it quick enough, so that's why we're data logging though, because we can go back and look at it. But hopefully we got a nice little patch here where I'm not gonna spin. We'll wait till we get rolling a little bit. That way it doesn't want to spin. Nothing, but man, I just blew the tires off. Every single time I just blow these tires off. I don't know, it does feel really, really good though. I'll have to take a look at it. I can't really get my eyes off the road long enough to actually read the data log going on there. And as soon as you let out of it, the first knock just falls off anyway, so I can't see it. But did it enough times that I should be able to go ahead and pull back and take a look at that data log and see. That Mustang behind me probably wants to get a go at it. Take him to Applebee's. I do love this car so. Such a blast to drive. Yep, no burst knock at all. I'm not seeing any. I think we desensitized them enough to do it. Whew, it is such a blast to drive. I love this car. Now that it's not pulling timing off, I think I was like running about 20 degrees of timing. It's still pretty conservative, but not being pulled down to like 0 is just great. We'll see. But so far, it looks good. Check the data log, I guess.
All right, now that we're back, let's go ahead and take a look at this data log. So as we can see, the first time that I pulled into it, almost, we got not full throttle, I guess. We're about 92% throttle, and we start immediately making boost like we did before, like in the low 2000s. We're going to be at about 2300. Yep, about 2300 when we start making boost, and this is only at 92% throttle. But as you see, no burst knock. We're not getting burst knock in this area like we were before. So pulled out, another little goose to the throttle, 92%. As you see, same deal. We're making boost in the low 2000s. Pretty nice. If I put a two-step on there, I mean, we're gonna. If I've set a trans brake and a two-step, we're definitely gonna be in the low 2000s if we launch this thing. And I should be able to foot brake this thing to almost 2000, so we can make boost like almost right away. That's gonna be really nice. We gotta test this out when it gets dry. But as you see, no knock, no knock. I think we did good. Here we're at 100% throttle, and as you see, we'll dial it back until we get on it. Get on the 100% throttle. We are running lean for a moment though. You can actually see, let's see, what's our AFR correction? Yeah, we have some lean areas in here. I'm over recording. We're supposed to only record after like about 10 to 15 cell hits. I'm doing one. So some of these are just like they flash through it for a microsecond and then there's the next cell. But as you can see, we are running lean. But these are why we do these data logs, is so we can actually capture this and then correct that. So let's see. Other than that, let's take a look. Yep. As we go to 100% throttle, we're actually evened out down here, so we're actually in the AFR range we're supposed to be. Almost perfect too. So good. 17% duty cycle on the injectors. No knock, guys. Come on, this is great. Been fighting this for a while. So let's see. Yeah, about 3 pounds of boost at 4,100. So as you saw from the video, this was because we immediately hit tire spin. So we're not going to be able to make any boost when we're not on load. So if the tires are just free spinning, you're not making load, you're not making much boost. So mainly it's because the engine's not working hard to do it, so it's not producing a ton of exhaust to spool up the turbos. Almost 100% throttle here. Perfect. No knock. 100% throttle. You see we're still 13 degrees of spark advance. These are really, really conservative numbers, and that's because we're still on the safe truck tune. We haven't even moved to the Camaro tune. Once we get this dialed in a lot better, we'll go ahead and change the timing over to the Camaro's timing table, which is going to give us a lot more timing advance. We're already running premium, so it's going to be just fine. So, you know, in mid 80s, we're making 4 pounds of boost. Let's see, 100%. Oops, a little too far. I think that maxed out at 3 pounds. Yep, for a second. No knock. 100% throttle. We're still making, and so if you guys remember, I was not looking at that one right there. So you guys remember we were falling down to about 6 degrees of timing, and that was only because I went into the tune and told it under burst knock to bring it down no lower than 6. Before it was brought down to 0, and that would just really fall on its face. So I was trying to at least get some tuning data on here because I couldn't populate these cells when it was just pulling it to 0. So let's see, we got 100%. Probably the hardest we pushed it, 4 pounds at 100% throttle. And I mean, look at that, only 31% injector duty cycle. That's not bad. So we're not pushing this thing any harder than it actually can run. We actually have tons of room to open it up. And I think right here would have been the most we pushed it at all. And like I said, it was really hard to make any boost in these conditions because I'm just all wheel spin. As soon as I hit it, the tires just blew off. It's misting out. It's about 30 degrees, maybe a little colder, and there's snow everywhere, salt and grime on the roads. So it's just impossible to get any type of actual traction to do this test. But everything is showing we're not seeing burst knock anymore, so we're not pulling timing. This is great. Now we can move on from there. We can start making the fine adjustments to the timing table. So let's take a look at what I did to make those changes. So under the tune, we're going to go to engine, spark, and knock sensors, and we're going to go ahead and adjust the knock sensor level versus RPM versus cylinder. So this one's actually going to be per cylinder, and it's going to be how sensitive the knock sensors are. This is actually where we started from. This is the stock tune, and we didn't deviate too much. And as you see, after 2400 RPM, this is where we were seeing the knock come flying in at 85+% throttle. Is because they start getting more sensitive in that area, and they start carrying that out. So they don't stop till about 6,000. So this is where we went ahead and moved it to. We raised those up to about 9 to 10 and carried them out. And that's all we did to desensitize. It's no longer looking for those fine, minute amounts. It actually needs to see serious knock to pull timing. So we didn't turn them off. We just desensitized them. So since I always have the original tune to go back to, I can always dial this back. It's not a big deal. I would like to replace a few things that I have, some concerns about, and then check it and see if it does it again. But for right now, we're happy with what we're seeing.
So just goes to show you. You can replace everything and you still have the issues. So honestly, I think it might be an issue with the PCM. I don't know. I can always swap it out. I do have more than one. But for now, we have it fixed. We're going to be able to do some driving on here, just not for a little bit because thank you, Midwest. So we'll wait till it gets a little nicer out. So until next time, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.